I can hear him.
I can hear Lance. I can hear Lance. Hey!
What is
Hi,
this shirt?
This is my I wish I was still on vacation shirt.
Oh, man, it's
Nice.
really great. Tell me about your vacation, because I saw a couple of pictures. Where were you? What have you been doing?
Well, we went to Florida, Miami. We took the kids so they could stay with grandma. And then I took my family to Cayman Island, which was awesome. Never been. And so that was really nice. But then we just got back from Italy. We had a wedding in Sorrento, which was
nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
how long were the kids in Florida with grandparents?
For 5 days.
Oh,
Yeah. And of
not
course, the 5 days that we're in Cayman, that's when they start taking their first crawl. I'm like, really? You choose these few days? But yeah,
Oh,
Wow.
man. Yeah.
Wait, Lance, do you have twins?
I do. Yeah, I have a boy and a
Oh,
girl.
that's so great.
They
And they
are
both started
so
crawling
cute.
at the same time?
It was crazy because she was sitting up for a while and he wasn't doing anything, and then finally she took her one little crawl, and then probably 12 hours later he was crawling because he's like, nope, I am.
Yep.
You're not doing this without
Not
me.
falling behind.
Wow.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Well, now you're entering a whole new stage, which is
Yeah.
terrifying.
I know.
I remember being so excited for my son to crawl because it was like progress, something new. And then entering the new stage, which was horrifying, which is suddenly everything on the ground is something they can put in their mouths and something that's going to kill them. And I was like constantly aware of like that little toy. We got to clean that up. We got to pick that up, or they're going to put that in their mouth. It's
I mean, why
terrifying.
do babies always have the first thing they do is want to eat it? No matter
Yes.
what it is, if it's a doorknob, whatever.
It's survival, man. They got to keep eating.
Wow. Every week you are all just selling this parenthood thing. I can't wait to start. This sounds amazing. Wow.
Well,
Yikes.
I do want to properly introduce our guest, but I should also properly introduce our show. Welcome to Pod Meets World. I'm Danielle Fishel.
I'm Ryder Strong.
And I'm Will Friedle.
And I'm so excited about our guest today. You know who he is because he was in the 90s most popular boy band. And yes, I said it. Yes, I'm sticking with it. There is no argument.
You just chose
NSYNC
a
is
side.
the most popular boy band. I would throw it down. And I know him better as being truly my first real love. And his name is Lance Bass. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm so excited. I've been listening to your shows. It has brought back so many great memories.
I do. You visited our set a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any specific memories of being on set?
I was just like really cool, being on- I was so intimidated because, that's a whole different world from the music industry. So being on a set for the first time was your set. Just seeing how everything moved was incredible. And I was also kind of jealous because y'all really had so much fun with what y'all did too. So I was like, God, this would be such a fun show to be part of.
I mean, I didn't ever get the vibe that the NSYNC guys weren't having fun.
Well, that's true. We did have a blast, but yeah.
But now, wait, am I remembering correctly that you guys came for a special? That was where everybody first met? And I actually wasn't there.
The
I was out
TGIF
of
bumps,
town.
right? We did that
Yeah,
like live TGIF show thing. Yeah.
Exactly. It was TGIF, which I was super excited to meet everyone. I think Mary Kate and Ashley just premiered their show that night also. It was a good time, but I was so nervous to meet this one right here, Danielle, because I have the biggest crush on her. Like,
Wait, we've been talking a lot about our story because podcast exclusive, Lance and I are actually working on a movie about our love story and about our prom experience. For those who don't know, I dated Lance for about a year, while I was on Boy Meets World, and it was my senior year. And Lance came with me to my high school prom, my Calabasas high school prom. He was my date. And in the talking about this and us working on the movie, which Lauren Lapkus and Mary Holland are writing, he's mentioned that he had a crush on me, which I truthfully did not know going into meeting Lance. So the way this TGIF thing was happening is basically we were doing like a live night. The shows, of course, were already taped, and those were going to just be played on the air the way they normally would. But in between the shows, they were going live to this cool spot where someone was gonna be hosting it. That person was kind of me, and they wanted to have a popular band play. And I remember people from ABC coming to me and saying, "Okay, Danielle, as one of the only girls on this show, who would you love to see?" And they kind of presented me the option: would you like Backstreet Boys or NSYNC? And I was like, definitely get NSYNC. And they did. And then I was I was the reason they were like, all right, we'll go after NSYNC. And then they asked NSYNC to do it. And Lance and Justin and Joey and Chris and JC all showed up. And it was this like big buzzing night. And I got to kind of host it and talk to them and interview them. And we did these little interstitials in between the shows. So that's the night we met. So did you watch Boy Meets World, Lance?
I've seen a few episodes for sure. Because again, I mean, I had a crush on you and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So
nice. Sarah Michelle Gellar. Yes.
I believe it.
You know what I remember about that night of the TGIF live show? I remember you all coming out with your band and you kept rehearsing the same song. And by the third time, right before the song started, you went, all right, here's the song again. Sorry. Yeah. And then the song started.
Yeah. And imagine how many times we've had to do that before then. Yeah. I remember that night. I mean, the only thing that I was in my mind that night was to try to get your number. Like, I didn't know how I was going to get the number.
Wow.
But I need to get her number somehow. So, yeah.
Well, and the way he got my phone number that night, my whole meeting with Lance was very much like it felt like a movie, which is part of the reason why we're going to turn it into a movie. But I remember all night talking to them. And again, when you're a kid, you kind of get sectioned off based on how old you are, like you gravitate to the people that are the same age as you. And Lance and Justin were the two youngest. And I was one of the youngest of all of the people that were there. And so Lance and Justin and I spent the most amount of time talking to each other. And I remember thinking like, I wonder if, this is going well with Lance. I wonder if he's going to try to get my number at the end of this, or I wonder what's going to happen. Like having that buzz that you get when you have a crush on somebody new and you're like, I wonder what this is going to turn into. And you also know time is limited because like when this is over, they're getting on a bus and they're driving away. And I have no idea if I'm ever going to see these people again. And at the end of the night, they run off stage and they have to run to go get changed. And I remember like I could technically leave, like I didn't have to be there anymore. I could get in my car and go, but I was like kind of waiting around to see what would happen when Lance like came out from the back. And I remember Lance and Justin, everybody kind of coming out and saying goodbye, and we hugged goodbye, and they got all the way to the bus. And I watched him walk onto the bus and I started to turn around. The bus started to take off and I started walking to my car. And then all of a sudden I heard Danielle. And I stopped and I turned around and it was Justin. Justin comes running up to me and he goes, Danielle, I need to get your number. And I was like, what? And he goes, it's for Lance. And I said, oh, yeah, okay. And I gave him my phone number and he ran back onto the bus. And sure enough, like a couple days later, I had a missed call and a voicemail from Lance. And it was Lance, but Justin also screaming in the background about how nervous Lance was to be calling me.
Oh my God.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And it took us an hour to write what I was going to say on your voicemail.
That's so great.
Is this too cheesy? No. Okay,
wow.
It was
awesome.
It was great.
I'd watch that movie. I'd watch that movie. Totally watch that movie. Yeah.
It was
great.
It was really great. And then it started like a whole year of us just talking on the phone, and Lance was always in someplace new. And that Christmas, I went to Mississippi and spent time with his family. And I got to meet his entire family there. And then that following year, during our hiatus weeks, I would go on tour with them for a couple days at a time. I'd hop on the bus and traveled with them a little bit. And then he went to my high school prom with me, and then he broke up with me.
Oh,
I was
Who's your
devastated.
favorite NSYNC girlfriend?
Well, Danielle Robb, Chris's girlfriend at the time,
yes,
we moved in together. So I met Danielle, who was dating Chris Kirkpatrick at the time. And we right away kind of hit it off. I mean, when I first met her, I was like, she's a lot. She's a big personality. And her name was also Danielle. And so I remember like meeting the rest of the guys as now Lance's girlfriend and being a little intimidated. And I remember Danielle being like, what? There's another Danielle? I'm the only Danielle. And I remember just being like, please don't run over me. But we very quickly bonded. And then when I moved out of my parents' house, like right after I turned 18, I moved in with Danielle. So I was living with another NSYNC girlfriend. And then that May or June, Lance and I went to prom, and then he broke up with me, and I was devastated. And I still had to live in a house with another girl who was still dating.
My God.
And so it was all still just like in my world. I had to know what they were doing and what they were up to. There was no escaping knowing what this. I mean, I thought I was going to marry Lance. I had envisioned our future, and then when he broke up with me, I was like, I couldn't escape it. And I held on to hope for way too long that Lance and I were going to get back together and get married and have a family.
So just curiously, Lance, why did you break up with her?
Oh, she knows what she did.
It turns out I'm not Lance's type.
Yeah, it turns out I like other things. It's so crazy. And the reason that we wanted to make this prom story into a film, I think so many people can relate to that story, where I think so many people in the LGBT community, their prom night was the night that they're like, oh, wait a minute, like this can't happen anymore. Like,
Wow.
I can't do this anymore. And so this was the catalyst for me that made me start to accept myself, which took a long time after that, but that was definitely the first little, straw that broke.
Wow. Yeah. So I want to go back to when you would come to set to visit, because you were actually I think you were only able to visit once or twice.
Yeah,
but I remember specifically one of the weeks you were able to come to visit was the week we were filming Corey and Topanga's wedding. Because I remember being around you in my at least veil, if not the wedding dress, and thinking like, I wonder what my wedding dress will look like when Lance and I are getting married.
Wow.
Yeah, it didn't creep me out at all.
I wasn't.
No pressure. Come to prom with me in my wedding dress.
Wow.
I don't think you wouldn't wear the wedding dress in front of me because you thought that was bad luck. So
yeah, exactly. I didn't want you to see me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. No, I don't think I wasn't vocally expressing these things. These were just things that were swirling around in my teenage mind, but I wasn't scaring him. I was trying to play it real
You didn't
cool.
think you were scaring him.
I definitely scared him. That's for sure.
I remember another time you visited it. You and Justin visited, and it had something to do with the premature baby. Remember the whole storyline where they're like, it was, so on rehearsal days, we just had this fake baby there. And of course, me being me, I would pick it up and do different voices with it. And like, I stick cigarettes in its mouth. Like it was terrible
so disturbing
stuff. It was. And I remember at one point you looked at me and you went, what is wrong with you?
That's right.
Because it was just so it's like what I do is like, what? There's a prop here and I'm playing with it. But it was just like this look of this horrified look of like, what is your problem? Like, what? Nothing. This is just me.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's right. It would have been around the time that we were filming that storyline too. Okay, here's a question I want to know. Maybe other people want to know too. You guys did a guest appearance, all of you, on Sabrina the Teenage Witch, right?
Yes, I get that, and Zoolander. I probably get the most of my career. Not in sync, but you did Sabrina.
Why did you do Sabrina and not Boy Meets World?
I don't know. Maybe they didn't want us to work together. I have no idea. But
Sabrina was the higher rated show. Sabrina was the hit show of TGIF at the time. We were the also-rans at that point.
It was also, I bet you, a network note because we had so many boys on our show because they tried to launch the girl band on our show. Do you remember that?
That's right.
That's right.
So that's
what was the band? Nobody's Angel was the name of the band or something?
Something like
Writer.
that? Yeah.
Something Angel, yeah.
Yeah, something like
Nobody's
that.
Angel.
Yeah, Nobody's Angel or Not an Angel or something like. But they, where of course the episode is Shawn is in a random dive truck stop, and of course there's a girl band. So it was they tried. I think it probably had something to do with that, where it was like, there's a lot of boys on Boy Meets World. Let's put the NSYNC guys on the more female-driven show and put the girl band on the more boy-driven show.
It was always fun to see which shows would want like the whole group to do something. I think was it Touched by an Angel. We did that. We were homeless guys, but a homeless boy band.
Wow!
What really?
Homeless boy band. Yeah. With Charlotte Church. I think she was also homeless somehow.
Wow.
Yeah, we did Clueless. I don't know why we were on that show. And Sabrina, I think it was her birthday.
Yeah, I think Melissa Joan Hart requested you guys. I think and you're right, Ryder, that they had a much more successful show.
Yeah.
And so if you were going to get booked on a TGIF show, you want to go on the one that everybody's watching.
Oh, I'm going to find that Touched by an Angel.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Classic.
All right, so my story of you guys visiting the set, I have this very clear memory. You guys came during an episode, the one episode directed by Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember us having a conversation. We were sitting by the craft service, and I was talking to Justin, and I was asking about, what you guys were doing, and he said, "Yeah, well, they've talked about us doing a TV show as a band, but I don't think we're going to do it. I think that's not a good idea." And Mickey Dolenz was right behind him, eating at craft service. And I remember Mickey Dolenz interrupting our conversation, snacking on something and going, "Why not? Why wouldn't you do that?" And I watched Justin look back, realize who it was, and have to backpedal desperately. Well, we're just not really, like, acting's not really we're not really, because he was just trash talking the very idea of like a band being in a TV show. Like, that would just be stupid. Oh my, it was one of the, and I remember him realizing it, me realizing it, and all of us just having to be like, "Oh, don't insult Mickey. Don't make him feel bad."
Well, yes, because for listeners who don't know, the Monkees had a TV show. That's that's how they started.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. What are the odds that they would be there during that week because Mickey Dolenz only directed that one episode?
Yeah, he was in a bunch of episodes, but it was when he was directing, and it was with the bee. It was one of the worst
the
episodes.
brain one. Oh, it was an awful episode.
Miserable.
It was an
awful
episode.
Week.
Yeah. Everyone was.
Do y'all have a favorite episode y'all have done together that y'all always talk about? Like, oh my gosh, that was like the best episode we ever did.
Well, we always mention the Scream episode because it was the first time really all of us got to be in a lot of scenes together, because there was, Will has mentioned many times, there's always, there's like the two Boy Meets Worlds. There was like the storyline that was Eric Heavy and his whole storyline. And then there was like Corey, Shawn, and Topanga and Angela in a separate storyline. And so we very rarely all got to work together. And that Scream episode was one of the most fun for us because it was just fun behind the scenes. And then individually, we all have favorite episodes because they mean something to us personally. But I think as we go along, we're going to be surprised by how many more memories come up and other like new favorite episodes.
Yeah. I like the episode where Nobody's Angel, that the girl band.
I did have a really good time that episode. I remember
they were great. No, they were great.
Fun.
It's just, it was one of those storylines where it's like, of course you encounter a girl band in a stage at this.
Well, not only that, but
one
of the truckers in the truck stop was played by an actor named Mickey. What was his last name?
Mickey. He's great. Gosh. Mickey.
He's a musician and an actor,
and he's a great musician.
He was a drummer for Bob Dylan for the tour that Dylan went electric. And so I remember not only hanging out with the Nobody's Angels girls, but also hanging out with him and just geeking out about rock music. And he had so many good stories because he had been sober throughout the entire 60s and 70s when he played with all these legendary bands. But yeah, he was in the original, like, the band, what became the band.
Mickey Jones.
He's a great character actor. But yeah, everyone will know him immediately if you look him up. But yeah, so that
apparently
episode
he passed. I'm sorry to tell you, he passed away in 2018 at 76. He was in the movie Tin Cup with Kevin Costner, and he was a great guy and a very good musician.
Yeah.
That's well, not to bring down the whole room. There we go.
Wow. Thank you.
He missed the pandemic, so that's positive.
Yeah.
See, you're always looking for the positive side of stuff, Lance. I love that.
So Lance, can we talk a little bit about? I found this picture that I didn't know if Ryder or Will had ever seen one of our prom pictures. But this is our prom, one of our prom pictures that my mom took.
Prom pose.
It's perfect.
Love it.
And so, yeah, we'll post that picture on our
And look,
Pod
no
Meets
hover
Worship.
hand on that one.
No, you are actually touching me. I can't believe it. The one that everyone knows, he's got his hand just hovering over my back. He's not actually touching me.
Oh, really?
He's being respectful.
It's really great.
He's being respectful.
He's like
Keanu
kind. He's
Reevesy.
like
Yeah.
he's as close to me as he can get without actually
My
having
mom
to
said,
touch me.
you leave room for Jesus.
Oh man. Lance, did you go to many school dances? Like, did you get to go to any of your own school dances, or did NSYNC kind of make that impossible?
Yeah, I mean, I went to dances, like junior high, and I think my freshman and sophomore years of high school, I got to go to homecoming, but I never got to go to my prom, which would have been so much fun. So I was so excited to go to your prom because that was basically my prom too, although I didn't know anyone. But yeah, it was, it was fun.
You guys must have been rock stars at that prom. Was it a big deal? Were people like freaking out and taking photos and asking for autographs, or what was it like?
It was kind of like that. And
Yeah.
I'll actually let Lance answer it from his experience, because I remember actually being like, I was mortified because I should have thought through it better, that like bringing
This was
him
your high school.
Yeah, it was my high school, and I was no big deal at my high school. Like, it was just not, we were all the same students that I went to junior high school with, and now I was all the same kids in high school. And like, so they were with me through all 6-7 years of Boy Meets World. It wasn't like a big deal. And so in my mind, when I was bringing Lance, it was just going to be another kind of not a big deal. Like, it didn't register to me that, of course, bringing Lance was going to be a massive story in the school. And so the night of prom, I remember feeling really bad for him, because it turned into basically like, we went to a pre-prom party, the way you do. We go to somebody's house, and everybody, mothers are there taking pictures of kids, and it's like a big group, except the one we went to was like, they had called the entire neighborhood over. And it wasn't just, one parent there. It was like every parent. And I remember feeling really bad. So I'll let Lance, I actually don't know. I think I've had like cringe anxiety over just even asking him what he remembers about that part. Lance, what was that experience like for you?
It was the perfect 90s Disney Channel movie.
Wow.
That's my date with Lance Bass.
That's what it felt like. I felt like I was playing a character. It's like, Chase Smith from blah, blah, blah comes in town.
Right.
But yeah, it was, it was fun. I had got a kick out of it for sure. Cause one, I hadn't been to prom. So I was excited to see what prom was all about. We did all those, typical prom things. But of course, in the back of my mind, the whole entire night is what's going to happen when we go to the hotel after this, because I know what happened prom night at the hotel.
Yeah. And because Lance and I had a very wonderful, very warm, loving relationship, but it was completely lacking of intimacy in the romantic sense.
Yeah.
We shared, all of our feelings, and we shared family stuff, and we were very intimate emotionally, but we were not physically intimate. And so prom night.
Oh, you were a really great kisser.
So wait, you guys had booked a hotel room? Yeah. Is that totally typical? I know we did an episode of Boy Meets World where that's kind of intense.
That's where I think majority of girls in high school lose their virginity.
Yes.
Gosh,
really?
That seems so formulaic and pressure filled and awful. Oh my God.
It's usually like, for some reason, it's the first night maybe that your parents ever let you spend the night out, like kind of as adults. You're graduating high school. Maybe you're already 18 or close to 18. And so it's very stereotypical that you get a limo or whatever the car is that's taking you to prom. And then after prom, everybody goes back to like the same hotel, and everybody has their own hotel rooms. And so Lance and I had a hotel room booked, and I had a vision for what that night was going to be, and Lance was very nervous about what my vision for that night was going to be. And so that is really the night Lance talks about as being like a thing where he felt like he was hurting me by not being honest to himself or with anyone else about what was going on in his life. And so it was kind of the impetus for him to say, I'm going to end our relationship. And sure enough, maybe within 2 weeks of prom, Lance called me and he just said, I don't think this is working, the distance. And it was,
never around.
Yeah, it's just too hard. I never get to see you. When I do, it's just for short, times. And here I mostly had been thinking we were making it work really well. It was, it was an answer that you give somebody when you don't really want to tell them the real reason why you're breaking up with them. And it didn't feel real to me. And so I felt like there was something I was missing. Like, is there somebody else? And yeah, I was devastated. And I remember calling my mom. My mom was the first person I called. And I told her, what was going on. And my parents loved Lance. Lance came when Lance and I first started dating, which meant, talking on the phone incessantly when we first met. And then Lance had I don't remember if you had work in LA, or I think you had time off. And you said, for my time off, I'd love to come to LA and spend it with you. And I said, okay, great. And so I told my mom that Lance wanted to do that. And at first she was like, okay, well, he needs to stay in a hotel. He can't stay here. And I said, okay, that's not a problem. And then I think the next day she said to me, your dad and I talked about it and we've actually changed our minds. As long as I know we can trust you and we can trust Lance that he will stay in his bedroom and you will stay in your bedroom. Lance spends so much of his time on the road. He's constantly in hotels. We don't want him to feel like he's just in another city on tour. We want him to feel like he's welcome in our family. So we'd like for him to stay with us. And so I was really excited. So Lance came and stayed with my family for like 4 or 5 days.
I respect those house rules.
Yes, there were house rules, and your bedroom was downstairs and my bedroom was upstairs. And during that week, we went to our first real date out was to go to a Celine Dion concert.
Wow.
God, just gets better and better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we went horseback riding, and Lance wore a collared shirt that had a leopard print collar.
Yes.
Wow.
And the 90s fashion, it was great. And I have so many great pictures of us. But so my family loved Lance. And when Lance broke up with me, I then called my mom and I told her I was in hysterics. And my mom said, Danielle, can I just ask you a question? And I said, sure. And she said, so you've been with Lance for almost a year. And I said, yes. And she said, do you think there's any possibility that Lance might be gay? And I said, no. Gosh, Mom, just because he doesn't like me doesn't mean he's gay. It was like, to me, I thought she was just trying to make me feel better. Like,
of course.
No, Danielle, maybe it's because he doesn't like anyone. And I just thought, oh my gosh, everybody's trying to make me feel better.
Right.
No, Mom, that's not it. And then I hung up the phone from her and I was a little bit like, I wonder. Maybe. But it still didn't really land until Lance told me himself, which was, do you remember what year that was, Lance? It would have, I know it was at your Halloween party. Lance and I stayed friends, obviously. We're actually.
That had to have been 99 or 2000.
Yeah. Well,
2000.
Yeah, I think it may have been October of 2000. It was like a full year later. Yeah, it was. It definitely was.
I have a question, Lance. When you broke up with her, had you told yourself yet that you were gay?
Not really. I knew it's just something that I just didn't want to think about. But I had realized that, yes, I wasn't into girls, but it was also in my head that there's no way I would ever act on being gay. It's just like, this will just not be a part of my life.
Right.
So yeah, you trick yourself into thinking that you're just always going to be in the closet, that you will meet someone that you can have a relationship with, and you live that lie like so many people have to.
Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, man, what a time. Because, I was thinking about it, that even for me, because other people said to me, Danielle, Lance is gay, before Lance did. And were really trying to tell me, if you can't see it, that's what's going on. And I just, it was such a thing back then. Lance was so private about it, and other people you were forced to be in the closet. That even for me, someone to say to me well, what, it's actually that he's gay. It was like, well, no, that's not possible. Because it wasn't as accepted. It wasn't as common. It just felt like everyone's just saying that to make me think it's not me. So yeah, what a absolutely crazy time.
No,
and I can't even
20 years ago. That's so crazy.
Yeah. But the 90s were also there was it's so funny because the same way we all know we've all run into all the different actors of all the different 90s shows that we were either at ABC events together, or we were on red carpets together, or we did crossover shows. The same way all the 90s actors kind of know each other. It is very much the same in the pop community. all the boy bands, all the pop artists know each other. Right. And because of my time that I spent with Lance, I also know all of the boy bands and all of the pop artists from that time. And some of my favorite stories, like one of my favorite stories, is when I was going to do MTV Spring Break in Cancun, and Lance and NSYNC were also there to do Spring Break. And Lance and I were trying to coordinate it so that he was going to be there for one day, and I wasn't supposed to be working there until like the next day. But if I went early, we could probably, he had a day off, so we could spend actually like 2 or 3 days in Cancun together and then both work. And then he'd leave to go to whatever he was doing next, and I would stay and do my work and then go home. And so we did. I flew out there early to be with Lance, and they ended up filming what they needed to film early and then decided to take their extra days off, and they were going to go do like another show somewhere else. And so then I was suddenly in Cancun alone. And, I was like 17 years old, and Lance was like, don't worry about it. The 98 Degrees guys are here. Let me introduce you to the 98 Degrees guys. And sure enough, I was then just a part of the 98 Degrees crew for those few days. And they were so kind and took such good care of me.
Wow.
And so like
98.1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. But Cancun, I love. Didn't we do Spring Break in Cancun?
Yes, that's the time I'm talking
that's
about.
The exact same time. Oh, that's right. We did it. I thought that was a vacation. I guess it wasn't a vacation.
Well, you were supposed to have time. You were supposed to have time off, and then it ended up being, their schedule would always change. They'd have like a day to do something, and then it'd be like, you know what, we're actually going to fit in some work, and then we're going to fly him over here, and so he very rarely had time off. But anyway, I love thinking about those times. Like whenever we run into somebody, my husband's always like, how do you know them? And I'm like, oh, of course. What do you mean? Of course I know LFO. Of course I know the 98 Degrees guys. Like we were all a big family. And they're all amazing people. Like they all have great personalities. They're all incredibly sweet. And there's like not insane competition. They're all really supportive and helpful of each other. It's really very nice.
Well, we see them at the conventions. They always hang out. And my favorite, so I've become friends with Joey, but every time I see him, I just turn around and I just hear, "What's up?"
Yep.
So that's just his universal greeting for me every single time.
Yeah,
so,
Joey has not changed one bit since the day I met him.
He is the most consistent person you'll ever meet.
Now, wait, Lance, I have one quick question for you, because in the music industry, I know that like even back in the day, like Andy Gibb, who was the biggest thing in the world, was married, but they had to keep it hushed up. Was it the kind of thing where you were not allowed to talk about that you were dating? You were like always supposed to be quote unquote available to all the fans. Was that a thing still?
It was, yeah. At that time, that was definitely the message I was getting from Lou Pearlman, my management, the record label. They would disguise it in a way. If they knew that I was gay, they wouldn't say, hey, if you're gay, don't come, whatever.
Right.
But they would always disguise it like, well, people look up to you, so you can't have a cigarette in your hand. You can't be seen with a drink. You can't be seen with a girlfriend. So, they were kind of laying down the law for us. So I knew being out gay was definitely not on, going to be a.
Right. Well, yeah, if a cigarette was going to do it.
Yeah. It's like, from smoking cigarettes to smoking pole is not
Lance, do you remember
acceptable in the 90s? Yeah.
Do you remember then the conversation? Because it was a big deal for me when Lance kind of quote unquote announced our relationship on Jay Leno, right?
Oh.
Is that where it was? It was, yeah, it was Leno.
Like, oh.
It was Leno. And it was, you knew the question was coming, and the conversation had happened with Johnny. And the decision was made that you were going to say that, yes, I was your girlfriend. And do you remember, was that conversation, was I allowed to be your girlfriend at that time because it was kind of hard to deny that something was going on between us because I was also recognizable? So like, is that what happened?
Yeah, because the fans knew, remember when Justin and Brittany first started dating, it's like the fans know. And then at some point you can't insult their intelligence anymore and you can't just pretend. So at some point you have to, come clean. And it was just the time because, I knew this was going to last. It was, this was the one.
This was the one. Yeah. So I remember that conversation because I remember it was actually one of the first times that I met the other guy's girlfriends backstage. And I remember feeling a little guilty too, because I knew that question was going to come up and that Lance was going to be allowed to say that, yes, I was his girlfriend. Yeah. And yet all of the other girlfriends were backstage and were not allowed to be talked about.
I
Like-
know. And then remember the Drive Myself Crazy video.
Yep.
You know, I originally wanted you to play my love interest in that because all the other guys,
All the other girlfriends did get to be in the
they were
video.
in that video. But I remember
wow.
it was a big deal. Like, should you do it or not? And then we went with like, no, it would cause too much of a controversy or something. I don't know.
It was, I think it was, they didn't want now my recognizability to take people out of the emotion of watching the video. Like, because the other, I don't know. I do remember. I remember it being a big back and forth about whether or not, and I was so bummed. I was there and watching everybody film it, and I was like just taking pictures of everyone. And I didn't get to play Lance's girlfriend in the video, but all the other guys' girlfriends did get to play their girlfriend.
NSYNC videos, you think of emotions. You know,
Yes.
like that takes that out of all of our music videos.
Always
just-
very deep.
There's so much image management going on. Like it's crazy. I mean, like I feel very lucky in a lot of
we
ways
didn't
as an
have that.
actor. We did not.
No.
I mean, no, not to that extent. I mean, it really
it
seems
was so
intense.
much easier back then because you know you could stay hidden. There was no social media. No one had a camera.
Right.
And so whatever story you told the public, they just had to believe. You know, unless
Right.
or someone printed some stupid thing, there was no proof. Now you got proof every step of the way, so you can't hide yourself. So I think that's why so many people are able to come out sooner and and live their real life because authenticity is key, and everyone can see right through it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. Now there's so many more opportunities for people to call you out for being inauthentic. Whereas back then, everything was very controlled. You had your public appearance and then you left. And the only people who really got to see you in those public appearances were the people that were at the concert. Like I remember going to NSYNC concerts and for a while I was wearing a wig. Like I would wear a short wig so that people wouldn't recognize that it was me there to see Lance. And then it was like, well, it's only these people in this arena who are going to know. They're not going on Twitter to say that they saw me there. And yeah, it was, I mean, the image management was just insane. Now, Lance, I have a like fictitious world question. So if you guys had to go on the road now as NSYNC, but you were going to have somebody fill in for Justin, kind of like the way John Mayer is now in the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
Who do you think you would choose to be in that role?
Oh, I know exactly who it would be because he is really great with harmonies. No, a lot of people don't know that he came from his college. He studied music and amazing with harmonies. Darren Criss.
Oh,
I've known Darren for years. He's a great guy.
He's a great guy. And
Yeah,
like,
Darren's a great guy.
he loves boy bands. He's from that era like that.
Yep.
I mean, he would just be the perfect fit with us. Yeah.
ooh, that's a great one. Can I make a suggestion? Somebody I'd like to see? T-Pain.
T-Pain?
Yes.
Okay.
I want T-Pain to go on the road with NSYNC.
I mean, that would be, I'm down. I'm so down.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. Is he good with harmonies?
I don't know. I don't know. I'll ask him.
Who cares?
I don't know. I don't
Hold
know.
on. Let me just ask.
Oh, I forget. People don't have to sing anymore. So yeah, I guess it doesn't matter.
Wow.
So, I mean, okay, now Lance is married, happily married to Michael.
Yay.
Please tell me a little bit about your husband, your babies. You guys are dads to 2 twins. How old are they now? Give us a little background on your personal life.
Right. So they were born October 13th. So they're coming up on 10 months now. And I mean, how quickly this goes. Everyone says it. They're like, it will fly by. And it is going so quickly. Like I say, the days are long, but the days are long, but the nights are like real short. And thank God they sleep throughout the night now. That is the best thing ever. But yeah, they've just been incredible. We've had such sweet little babies. They let us sleep. They don't make too much noise, which is nice.
They're quiet babies.
They're quiet babies.
They're wearing the adorable head-shaped helmets currently, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They have 2 more weeks with their little helmets. And they have decals on, like my son's has Marvel all over it. And then my girl finally just got done yesterday. She has 2 weeks left in it and they just got done. But she's like an Amelia Earhart,
Oh,
like aviator thing. Oh, and this is Alexander.
oh,
Oh, jeez. Wow.
Tired right now.
hi, buddy. So Lance's kids are about almost exactly a month younger than my baby Keaton. And we went to Lance and Michael's house for a Memorial Day barbecue, and I got to hold the babies. And I have a picture of me holding Alexander in one arm and holding Keaton in the other. And Alexander, a month younger than Keaton, is easily twice the size of Keaton. I have no idea why Keaton is so small. Like weight-wise, he's in like the 8th percentile or something. Wow. And Alexander is just sitting next to him. He's got these gorgeous, thick, chunky little thighs. And Keaton's like, It is.
He is a big boy. His sister has like the littlest hand and the littlest feet, and he's just has these huge football player hands.
Yeah, they're so sweet. But it was really fun to have.
It's like Samoan about him. I just like, he looks Samoan to me. So I think he's going to be a very like rock big
solid.
A solid kid. Yeah. Wait till, like Ryder said, wait till they start like pulling up and walking. Keaton is about to start walking. He's been using his walker and running around the house with his walker. And I think any day now he's going to let go of that thing and just take off. And now I'm looking at this gorgeous table behind you, and it looks very sharp and pointy, and like you have beautiful things on it.
There's all these bumpers over it. See,
are there bumpers?
Okay, you put the bumpers on. Yeah,
black bumpers. Mm-hmm. And they're not allowed to go in this room because
great.
It's just a very hazardous. My whole house is very angular.
It goes death traps everywhere.
Exactly. It's the pointy house.
We had the baby proofers come over and about 5 days ago. And so the whole house is completely baby proof, but they're like stuck in this certain area. This new room that we built, we thought was going to be just a part of our living room. No, it's now the kids' room and
baby room.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yep. Every area starts to get taken over. So,
and they're expensive and you don't sleep. Selling it.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Don't you want some?
Oh, man.
Well, Will's stepdaughter is getting married. So
she's getting married. Yeah. She's 31.
Talk about it going fast.
I always tell people being a parent's the easiest thing in the world. My kid came with her own apartment and a 401k. I mean, come on. Simple being a parent.
Yeah. Well, Lance, what do you have going on work-wise? I know you have a whole production empire. You're producing things. You have Rocco's nightclub. Tell us more. And you guys do 90s nights, right?
We do. Well, on Fridays, we do our Flashback Fridays. So we bring in the 90s, 2000s music, which is so fun, especially for people our generation that miss going out and actually dancing on a dance floor.
Right.
That's what we wanted to recreate, and it's been great. You know,
Lance, I want to pitch to you my idea that I had the other day. Right. I want to do a parents' night, but a parents' night for parents like me, which is I am not cool enough to stay up until 10 or 11 o'clock to go to a club. Yeah. What if we did a nightclub from like 6 to 10, okay? 6 p.m. You have hors d'oeuvres, you play great music, the music we want to hear, but also you throw in the songs that the kids are super into. Like, for example, Adler just recently really got into zombies. And so I'm listening to zombies Disney Channel music all the time, and I love it, even when Adler's not in the car. The music is incredible. Are you kidding me with the song Bam? That song is a bop. I want to hear the 90s music from my time, but from the hours of 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. with a little bit of my kids' music that I actually like and enjoy thrown in.
It's a dusk club, not a nightclub.
Correct. Thank you very much.
I like it.
I think 7 to 10 is probably going to be more our speed. 4 hours.
Okay.
I think that's great because the club doesn't even get going until 10:30, 11. So
that's what I said. You guys are having wasted hours. But for people like me, I want to be able, like, I can go to the Dusk Club from 7 to 9 and still be asleep by 10 p.m. But I've had a great time. I've danced. I've listened to the stuff I really like. So anyway, there's my formal pitch.
I was going to say, you throw in a bad cheeseburger and fries for Danielle, and she's just mentioned her greatest night ever.
Best night of my life. Anyway,
what's your prom night?
Some of us didn't even get to go to prom, so you guys still had an awesome prom. I was home, I just couldn't get a date, so I literally didn't go to my prom.
Ryder, did you go to any of your dances?
That is true.
Well, we didn't have dances. I went to, tiny school. I graduated in the class of 12. So, no, we didn't have a prom at all. But I did go to 8th grade dances, like 7th and 8th grade. I did go to dances in the local public school because I had a girlfriend who went to those. So I went to those.
Those were the best.
That was kind of enough for me.
Yeah. Stairway to Heaven would start, and it would be this great slow dance until the fast part of the song started. Then you didn't know what to do. So you were
Stairway
like,
to Heaven. That's like 70s. No.
Yes,
I'm trying to
it's the
think
70s.
what it was. It was like, this would have been...
I remember it always would end with more than words.
Of course,
Yes, that's more my- that's
Extreme
more
could
the time
close
I'm
down a
talking
club,
about.
my friend.
Yes.
Extreme could close down a dance. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Everything I Do it for you. That was more of the early 90s.
You still had
but yeah,
Stairway
no.
to Heaven. It's still played at school dances all the time. It's like the quintessential dance song. And then it's like the guitar starts and you're like, no, I don't know what to do.
In Connecticut, where they're still using fax machines.
Are we doing this again? Are we doing this again? God. By the way, I want to take this moment to thank Lance for coming up with the Pod Meets World idea.
Oh man, we're so happy he came up with this idea because it's really made us all closer. And yeah, he doesn't get enough credit for bringing up this idea.
He doesn't.
Yeah,
Thank
he really
you.
doesn't. Really.
Well, Lance, I want to thank you for being here with us. Thank you for taking this time. And I also want to thank you and say to everybody that, like, while Lance and I met and I thought he was the one true love of my life and that I thought I was going to marry him, the biggest, and most amazing takeaway for me from our relationship is that Lance is still one of the greatest, is a great love of my life. It is not a romantic love, and it never was a romantic love. I thought I had hopes for it to be, but it was not. But it didn't matter that Lance was gay and that I was not going to end up marrying him. We have maintained a friendship through all these years. And of course, there have been times, like even with Ryder and Will with us, there have been times where we've gone a year or two without speaking or seeing each other. And you fall in and out of each other's lives as things go on. But every time you come back together, it's like no time has passed. And Lance is forever one of those people for me. And he is one of my most cherished friends and a cherished person in my life, the same way Ryder and Will are. And yeah, I want to thank you for being such a wonderful person to me.
Oh, well, ditto, my friend. It's it's very rare that you meet people that, you can, have that connection with, that you can go a couple of years without even seeing each other, but then just pick up right where you left off. And, I have a handful of people like that in my life, and you are definitely one of those. And, I could not be happier that you're in my life. I love you.
Love you. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this wonderful episode of Pod Meets World. We send us your thoughts about what you think about some of our pop culture episodes and what you want to hear more of and what you want to hear less of. You can write to us at podmeetsworldshow@gmail.com. Make sure you follow us on Pod Meets World Show on Instagram. And Lance, where can we follow you?
At Lance Bass. Instagram, TikTok's basically all I do these days. I'm kind of getting rid of most of it because
Good for you.
I'm just too old now.
Lance, you have a very successful TikTok. You go viral all the time.
Well, it's fun because on TikTok, it's like your own TV network, right? So you get to entertain people. And there it's just fun. And I don't see any negativity yet.
Yeah.
That's what I said about Twitter years ago. I'm like, oh, it's so positive.
Such a supportive group.
I didn't think everybody was so reasonable, but this is amazing.
Great. So hopefully TikTok will stay that way in my feed, and I'll actually enjoy it and not have to get rid of it. But yeah,
Lance,
it's a lot of fun.
Do you come up with all your own TikToks idea? What are your do you have people who help you come up with some of your genius social media stuff, or is it all you?
It's just whatever naturally fits. The good thing about TikTok is the trend's already there most of the time. So it's just you trying to remake this trend. So they make it easy for you.
I need to get into that because like what you just said. I know that there are TikTok trends, but I don't even know where to find them. So can you give me a TikTok tutorial?
I'm going to give you a tutorial. You're going to come over with the kids. We're going to
Great.
swim. I'm going to make your first TikTok.
Okay, perfect. I love that idea. I already have TikToks. I have some out there, but you can make my first
TikToks.
trending one.
We're going to make
TikTok,
them better.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna make them better.
I'm
Thank
not
you.
even following you then because I don't even see yours. Hold up.
Oh
Okay.
wow, babies
I'm
and
Danielle
social
Fishel
media.
8.
Please bring me to that. The babies and the social media day. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, that sounds like Will's perfect afternoon.
Yikes.
All right. Well, thank you for being here with us, and we will see y'all next time.
All right. So good to see y'all.
Thanks, Lance.
Bye, Lance.
Bye. Well, that was really fun to have him come on the show. I did not know that story writer about Mickey Dolenz being behind him talking about the TV show.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was one of those legendary moments, like where he realized it and I realized it, and it was like, oh God, because it's hard to, it's so. We've talked maybe a little bit about this, but like the distinction between being a TV actor and a movie actor. And like at the time, the idea of a band doing a TV show just seemed kind of cheesy, or like, it was small potatoes for somebody like NSYNC, who were huge at the time. But of course, back in Mickey's day, like they were a band created for a TV show. And their TV show had been such a massive hit. It was like
they were bigger than the
identity.
Beatles. They were literally for 2 years bigger than the Beatles,
right.
the Monkees.
And yet, I think from Justin's perspective, who obviously went on to become a movie actor, and the idea of like being on a TV show with his band was just so cheesy and ridiculous.
Yeah.
But then he turns around and like the one person you can't express that sentiment to is right there. Oh, so great.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I spent a lot of time with Justin and Lance because, like I said, very similarly, even to our show, you kind of get sectioned off based on who you're closest in age to, because there's a big difference in age when you're that young, 11 to 13. The differences there are huge.
Were the other guys like already in their 20s? They were.
Yeah, I mean,
Chris is the oldest, right?
Chris is the oldest, and he's like 10 years older than Justin and Lance, 10
That's
or
a
11
huge
years
difference.
older. And I think JC is at least 3 years older, and Joey's 4 or 5 years older. So like they were definitely, and it's not that I didn't spend time with them too. They also spent a lot of time as a group, and I got to be a part of that. But the two of them were very close, and and so I spent a lot of time with the two of them, and they were, I mean, still to this day, Justin is one of the funniest people I've ever spent time around in my entire life. He is laugh out loud funny. Just a
There's
crazy
so
time.
few of us.
I'm so lucky to know the laugh out loud funny people like Will Friedle, Justin Timberlake.
But the thing that I loved about the NSYNC guys, and this is something that you obviously know a lot better than I do, but they seem to genuinely like each other. And that's something where it was like us doing the show. I mean, that matters. When you can tell when the chemistry is there, and you never know when you're putting a cast together, you're putting a band together. You never know when the chemistry is going to work and when it doesn't.
Yeah.
And all those NSYNC guys, when they got together, you could tell they genuinely enjoyed making art together, spending time together, traveling together. I mean, you're a family instantly.
Yep.
And that makes a huge difference. So that was cool. Every time you saw them together, it was like, oh, they like each other.
Yeah,
like, that's
they
a good
genuinely
thing.
like each other.
That's a good thing. Yeah,
I know it is. It is a perfect. Our show is a perfect representation of that in the TV form. We genuinely enjoyed each other and what we were doing, and I think it comes across. I mean, people talk about that with our podcast, which I'm really happy to see. People can tell that we are, we genuinely love each other and we're supportive of each other, and we also rib each other, which is really fun.
it's part of the love.
Yeah. Well, I love you guys. We've only been doing this we've only been recording for 3.5 hours today. Are you sure you don't want it? Should we jump into that other podcast idea, Ryder? The
do
improv
it.
idea?
I love it. Let's go. So we open on the giraffe. Here we go.
That penguin sure is smelly. All right. Thanks for being here. We love you all. Pod dismissed.
Pod Meets World is an iHeart podcast produced and hosted by Danielle Fishel, Will Friedle, and Ryder Strong. Executive producers Jensen Karp and Amy Sugarman. Executive in charge of production Danielle Romo. Producer and editor Tara Sudbach. Producer Lorraine Vures. Engineer and Boy Meets World superfan Easton Allen. Our theme song is by Kyle Morton of Typhoon. Follow us on Instagram at Pod Meets World Show or email us at podmeetsworldshow@gmail.com.